Welcome back to the Dishcourse, the podcast that has hot food takes,
cool food people,
and never a lukewarm moment.
If you're new here, we're a podcast where we dish and debate on all new food industry trends and fads.
And as experts who work deeply within the food service industry for today's biggest global brands, nothing makes us more excited than really digging into what, how, and why people eat.
If you love impromptu conversations about today's food landscape, come on in and watch the plates fly.
I'm Chef Renee. I help direct a culinary R&D test kitchen, and I don't think food is comforting anymore. It's regulating. Your food needs a job. Is it helping with your mood, focus, digestion? Pick one.
Amen.
Yes.
Pick a lane. I'm Cali, trends expert and nutritionist, and I think that texture is working way harder than flavor right now. Crunch, crackle, foam, taste alone isn't enough, but please do not put textural elements in my beverage. I don't want jelly in my drink.
Boo.
Nope. Boo. Nah.
Whatever.
What about boba and all of that?
No, I don't want it.
Bro,
I
you're
don't
missing
wanna
out.
slurp something that I have to chew through a straw.
But
What
it's
is that?
it's more flavor. Come
Clearly
on.
someone has never had a Campbell's soup to go. Like, that's what that tells me.
You're right. I did not grow up eating Campbell's soup.
To go in the little container, you know?
Oh my God, throwback. And I'm Chef Cam. I manage a team of R&D chefs, and my take is that quiet luxury means nothing because if it screams TikTok, it's already tired.
We are back, season 2. Let's go. And today we are kicking it off with our 2026 trends as we start the new year. So I'm just going to set us up a little bit with our bread service, and then we will dive right in. So when we think about 2026 and the food and beverage industry, we are being pulled in a variety of different directions simultaneously in terms of the things that are influencing new trends. So we're thinking about affordability. We know that more so now than ever, a lot of consumers, 65% of consumers are expressing that they are really stressed about the cost of living and how that's rising according to Data Central. And that just means that there is more of a focus now than before on value and how that's become a non-negotiable when consumers are choosing to dine out. We're looking at our health and wellness trends and how those continue to evolve. We know that consumers are increasingly using GLP-1 drugs, and that's affecting appetites. But there always seem to be new claims, what's in, what's out. We'll get to that in a moment. We're looking at pleasure and craveability. So we are seeing the evolution of our little treat culture and how consumers continue to desire these multi-sensory experiences in food service. And then finally, we are thinking about environmental concerns as, you know, climate change is a real thing, but also as consumers continue to seek transparency in the ingredients that are being used. And if you feel like you've heard a lot of these before, the answer is you're right. And that's mostly because our macro trends year to year kind of build momentum rather than change drastically. So we aren't necessarily seeing anything that's completely new and exciting. But as a result, a lot of the reports that we consult on do kind of show the evolution and nuance of these different trends. Today we're discussing 2 main trends that we are expecting in this new year. The first is in our realm of health and wellness. We've talked so much about protein, and that will continue this year. But looking into this next year, we're focused more than ever on gut health, and the new call out of the moment is fiber. Consumers are hyper-focused on fiber. 59% of them believe that gut health is crucial to the entire body. And I think it really is on the rise as people continue to look more into holistic wellness and not just thinking about kind of what they're eating or what they're doing for exercise, but they're thinking about mental health and immunity and long-term health. And when it comes down to it, we're realizing continuously that our gut health impacts everything else in our body. So I think that's why we're focusing on gut health and fiber in benefiting our microbiomes. But I'm interested in what kinds of menu items you imagine being promoted that kind of fit or are going to adopt these claims. And are there any specific ingredients as chefs that you imagine being used more in support of this trend?
I mean, the first thing I guess there's two things that come to mind. The first is fermented foods.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've already seen the growth of things like kimchi, sauerkraut, pickles in general.
Yep.
I think that we'll start to see more shrubs on menus, especially
Shrubs.
So it's like a vinegar. Like imagine if it was a simple syrup but made with vinegar
acidic. Yeah.
instead of water.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with a woman like years ago, Kristen, who made this beet shrub snow cone that I have like not stopped thinking about since I had it, where it was pickled beets and vinegar and it had like notes of orange in it, and it was just so delicious. So I think that we're gonna see that call out. Like we'll see more shrubs on menus specifically with apple cider vinegar attached to it, which is like the gut health vinegar, if you will. It's really we're like a household where we both drink a spoonful
shots of it.
of apple cider vinegar every day because it's so good for your respiratory health, and I travel so much for work. And then the other one is beans.
Yes, beans, 100%.
Beans.
Yes.
I love you, beans. I love you, beans. We're team bean in this household where we're not, I've said this 1,000 times, but I struggle to cook animal protein. However, I never struggle to pull a can of beans out of my pantry and cook that for dinner instead.
Yeah. No, I
Well,
agree.
I think it's interesting, too, as I think about it from a nutrition lens, because when we think about our natural sources of fiber, so we're talking whole grains, beans, fruits and vegetables, I feel like particularly beans very much overlap with our protein trend. We talked a lot about beans in terms of being an amazing plant-based protein, but update, they're also a great source of fiber. So that's like, yay. But I think it's interesting as we think about kind of the general evolution of health and wellness trends and trying to get consumers to just understand that whole unprocessed ingredients are going to be healthiest, because I feel like all of these natural sources of fiber
It's interesting because I think
encompass most of those foods.
that's what we thought about protein, but I already see the CPG shift in like, oh, this is a bean chip and it's delicious and it was previously called out with protein, but now it's a fiber chip. And so
are they just switching the claims?
I don't know. So I just think it's really interesting to see how this is going to show up in CPG, because my mind always goes back to protein water and how,
oh my God.
like I can already see protein water plus fiber on like in a bottle in the open air cooler somewhere. So like this water beverage does X, Y, and Z for you. So I don't know. I agree with you that yes, whole foods are the best way to get fiber, but we thought that whole foods were the best way to get protein, and we've seen protein become such a processed ingredient.
Yeah.
So I'm so curious to see if the same thing will happen to fiber. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kim, what do you think from like your experience out in the industry?
I completely agree with you on that, because it's like one of my favorite Instagram accounts is Snacks Shot.
Yes.
And they're always like, they memify some things, but it's really cool just to see like just all these indie brands just popping out of nowhere that are making things that have like literally everything that we just talked about in it. And Renee, the drink that you were talking about, all it's missing is creatine. Like honestly.
Oh my God.
And then it's like you're hitting on everything. But no, yeah, I agree. Like as someone, like we talk about convenience also being another major thing where it's like people want something that will have like everything that they need in it just on the go. So if the fact that they can get a high protein beverage that also has like a daily dose of creatine in it, and there's a fiber element to it, that would be like a slam dunk for someone, just because it's like, oh, cool, I can just grab this and it's like, oh, cool, I'm already like halfway like through my fiber intake goal for the day and I hit my creatine goal. I just need to eat protein, which that's really easy to hit on.
To your point about indie food brands, I feel like I've never seen more people with no food and beverage experience make food more than ever, start food companies. And so the kind of like, it feels like there's a shifting influence between people who have decades of experience or came from restaurants or, you know, even from like the lens of like food service marketing. And now we're seeing people who are leaving tech jobs and starting their own food companies. So like that influence of tech on food and just that kind of like the way tech businesses are built, the indie call out is really interesting to me, and to see where that's going to go. It just feels like a fiber soda is right there.
Well, and I feel like speaking to what both of you just said, like I think the protein craze set such a precedent for people when we started seeing, oh, you could add protein to literally anything in the grocery store and it will sell because consumers are looking for that. I wonder if that's just made it seem easier. Like, are we just going to see the same thing like you were saying, Renee, with fiber? We're just going to see a million fiber call outs. I worry though, because added fiber to something that doesn't have fiber, similar to over consuming protein.
No,
like,
it's the exact same thing.
It
Yeah.
can hurt your stomach. And
Like,
I
so bad.
wonder if it's going to do
yes.
more harm than good.
I will, like, I will.
Sugar-free gummy bears.
Yeah, like, I
That's
just,
all I keep thinking about is sugar-free gummy
Oh
bears.
no!
And if you don't know about sugar-free gummy bears,
look
you
it
go
up.
try them.
Yeah,
Tell us what you
No, I was gonna say
Report
like
back.
go to Amazon and read the reviews. Like,
oh God.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. If you're gonna be if you are going to be increasing your fiber intake, you have to be drinking an adequate amount of water.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Please.
But I think that's part of what also concerns me is the lack of consumer education and just diving straight into, oh, now we're trying to overconsume fiber without really understanding why or how, or like the water intake, like you said, or it concerns me. But I'm curious, do you guys think in terms of when we look at menus in food service, in talking about a lot of these natural sources, like I think about salad sections on a menu. I feel like we've seen over the years a lot of healthy claims and some high protein claims, but do you think it's as easy as just slapping on a high fiber claim on a salad?
I almost think that we're gonna see a logo that's at the bottom of, like, you know how there's like plant-based or, you know, dairy-free, vegetarian.
Yeah.
I see more operators adopting an icon-based menu code to tell people how they're eating and what they're eating, and making it even more accessible to get all the things that someone is looking for at home or in the snack aisle, which is where we see a lot of this innovation come from first, but on their plates, without having to do a ton of like innovation heavy lift. What I'm excited about, like the fiber trend, is that it's just remixing what the operator already has in their pantry with either the addition of one ingredient, like bringing beans onto your menu, adding beans like white cannellini beans to a salad and taking it in a different direction than black beans in a Southwest salad that we've seen for years and years and years. Or it's just remixing what's already on the menu to make those things that have that fiber call out, because fiber, to your point, is so based in whole foods and fruits and vegetables.
So you're saying that it could be very easy for a lot of operators to quickly hop on this bandwagon without doing much to their
Just crack open
pantry.
a can of beans. Just crack one open. That's it.
Or pouch.
Okay.
you know?
Pouch, yes.
Pouch. I also, like, aside from fiber, Cali, one thing that you spoke about was like pre and probiotics too.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to see how that shows up on menus too, especially with, you know, the FDA changing so many standards of identity and like what the definition of prebiotic and probiotic truly is. Will it remain the same? We saw a shift happen in yogurt when like protein started to be a huge thing, where there's really no such thing as Greek yogurt anymore. It's Greek style yogurt, and it's just yogurt that has been strained twice, so it is more dense in protein. And so I'm curious to see if and how regulation data will affect how food companies are going and labeling things. And on the other side of that is, like, I think we saw this with Poppy, I believe, where they were calling out
Yeah.
like soda as like a healthy prebiotic soda, but there wasn't necessarily enough to make those health claims.
Yeah.
So how do we care about those health claims, and what do they mean for food service marketing?
Yeah. And I think particularly you were saying earlier, things that are fermented and like pickles. We've seen the pickle trend going absolutely crazy for a while now, but it's almost like fermented foods, kimchi, which is our global inspiration, and pickles, and even yogurt being used in different applications. Like those things have been trending for a while now. And so it's almost like we've teed this up well in introducing those new claims. And I do think it could be as easy as just adding those claims to packaging of things like that to bring awareness. And shifting to our second trend, though, we're talking all about texture. So I said that at the beginning, texture seems to be more important than flavor these days, even though we know that flavor is one of the most important things to consumers when they're dining out. But we know that consumers really are seeking added value whenever they're dining out, because we know it's becoming more expensive. It needs to be worth their spend. They need to be able to justify it. And so we're seeing texture being played with, being called out so much more on menus. Do you think that beyond, or I guess rather this, we've seen a lot of crunchy, crispy, foamy, creamy. Do you feel like there is a opportunity for new innovation in one texture more so than another? What are the most successful ways you've seen texture show up on menus? And also, is it easy for operators to make simple adjustments, like you were saying, for fiber? Is it as easy as reorganizing your pantry or rethinking a current menu concept to elevate the textures on menus?
So I think COVID hit crunchy crispy. Like we saw a lot of innovation
The
around
ASMR.
Yep.
just delivery, I think, and companies like reformulating things like French fries. So
True.
we saw French fries reformulated so that they're better for delivery, or packaging reformulated to keep things crispier and crunchier for longer. So to add, like, that's a really difficult question, because I do think that when it comes to crispy, that's the easiest thing to add to your menu, because so many ingredients come in ready to use, like crispy onions, crispy jalapenos. You can even find like crispy pickle chips now available food service. So, I mean, we've seen foams rise overall. I don't know. What do you think, Cam?
It's interesting because, like, people are very open to those types of textural sensations, so like your chips, your French fries, but I think of it through like an Asian lens, where it's like a lot of these textures are very important. Like when you're eating, like if you go get dim sum, for example, you're getting all the textures. You're getting chewy, you're getting crunchy, you're getting like jelly like consistencies. And I know that, through like an American lens, those sorts of like chewy and like jelly like textures don't necessarily like bode well to the American palate, if you will. So like I think of one of my favorite dessert chains is it's a Taiwanese dessert chain called Meat Fresh, and they do like rice like soups that have different types of textures. It's soft, it's creamy, but then there's a little bit of chew from like tapioca, sago pearls, like all of that stuff. And what I'm happy about is something that we've always like Renee, you know this because you do a lot of beverage work as well, where it's like getting an operator to like embrace popping boba. Like a few years ago, that was like almost impossible. I mean, straw-sized popping
back,
boba didn't
wild.
even typical straw-sized boba didn't even exist when. Like I think, Cam, we probably started having popping boba conversations in 2020.
That's crazy.
And what I'm happy about is people's first exposure to popping boba was from like 2010s, was the froyo shops. And like from there, I mean, like you had people that said that they either liked it or hated it, but now like from an operator perspective, one of the easiest ways that you can get texture in your drink is just through boba, texture and flavor at the same time. So I would love to see more innovation in that space, whether it's adding caffeine to it, adding some sort of functional benefit would be pretty
Caffeinated
cool.
boba.
Oh, it exists. It exists.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I also think it's really interesting. And I think one of the reasons why texture has so much room to grow beyond what we've already seen happen on menus is because it fits into both healthy and indulgent. And we know that consumers are continuing to indulge. We still want our little treat moments. We still especially want to indulge when we're eating out. But we also know that all the health stuff matters. It has its time and place. But I think it's interesting how crunchy, crispy very much correlates to the perception of something being fresh if it's a healthier option. And that same kind of texture experience, like if you're opening a bag of chips, is also perceived to just be more indulgent. So it's interesting that it does kind of play in both spaces. And so I think moving forward, this will continue to be really relevant as consumers look for things that are craveable.
Yeah, that satiating part is a great call out with indulgence, because Cali talks a lot about textures as she pulls insights for the various menu concepts that Cam and I work on when we, it's a cross-functional team when we go into these operators and we do presentations, right? Everything that our team does is rooted in trends. And Cali is a big part of where we find those trends and how we talk about them as a culinary team. There was a Texas A&M study done, and it talked about the 4 different types of eaters. So there are 4 types. What? They are the craziest names that I would have written them differently.
I'm ready.
But there are
Educate us.
crunchers, chewers, smushers, and suckers.
Smushers?
So you likely have an affinity towards one of those. What are those? Crunchers, that obviously makes sense. That's the thing you're looking for most, is that kind of sensory crunch. It's audible, it's crisp, it has a very clear, specific texture that fractures or cracks. Chewers are people who really chew their food, so they like to break their food down the most. The longer they can chew for, the more satisfying experience. So think about people who gravitate towards chewy cookies or something like a granola bar as a snack, or even you could think about this as someone who really enjoys a treat like taffy. Then there are our smushers, and those are folks who like to manipulate their food the most with their tongue. So think about people who take a bite out of their ice cream and then I say that, but you can take a bite with a spoon, but you're taking a big old bite of ice cream and then you're kind of smushing it against the roof of your mouth. So a really soft texture overall, instead of that kind of heavy chewing. And then last but not least, we have our suckers. And so those are folks who like to suck the flavor out of foods before moving on to chewing. So they're really focused on the flavor release first. So think about people who really enjoy hard candies or always have a mint on them, something to that effect. And most people are chewers, followed by crunchers. Often you will identify as 2 of the 4 eaters, and there's a big generational difference overall. So right now we're seeing a lot of younger people in terms of demographic breakdown. We're seeing more and more crunchers. I think a lot of that
tracks.
Right, I know, especially when we're thinking about the snack aisle evolution. Adding crispy things to menu. Asian influence of toppers, I think, is also a big part of it. However, it doesn't sound like they're totally sure if that kind of generational change happens over time. So I'm a chewer. Right. So I'm a chewer now.
I would say I'm a chewer.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so down the line, will I become a smusher or a sucker? as you age
And
and
you lose
know
all your
you
teeth
lose
and you
your
have
teeth,
dentures.
right? Yeah, you're looking, or
And then you're
even
just smushing things.
with flavor release, right? Our taste buds dull over time. That's why kids don't like broccoli or blue cheese or Dijon mustard, and that's why we see older age groups love those flavors. It's not tied to your generation, it's tied to your age. And so are we also seeing the growth of people like suckers because they're focused on flavor release more, because that like to have a really intense flavor means something to you more when your taste buds aren't as like, they don't have as much sense to them.
I also will throw out the idea that I think with the progression and evolution of social media, and we know how important those things are in terms of food service marketing these days, I think the development of high quality content that is able to capture, like when we think about ASMR and how that's become such a trendy thing in all different types of, like, beyond food. I mean, people love organizational ASMR, you know, like, but
Restock my daughter's fridge.
with the ability, no, see, I love those videos. I love that. That will be me one day. But with the ability to capture that kind of content and that kind of audible crunch, I think as we think about the influence that social media has had on getting people to go to an operator and try the new crispy chicken sandwich on the menu, if they've now seen content that captures that, they are so much more enticed to be like, I want to crunch that loudly. You know, like it's played into it.
craveable. Cam
Yeah.
is actually our team is actually about to start a hyper relevant project to this that involves going to different chicken chains
Yep.
and
crunching?
rating. Yes, the sound of the crunch is part of
Yeah,
the
the
sensory
feel.
evaluation.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Like how
I
it
can't wait.
shards off. I know it's really a great winter project.
My doctor's gonna hate me, but you know, whatever. That's why we're eating fiber.
Okay, so Kelly, you really touched on how texture really invigorates value. And I think the ASMR social media piece really ties into this. But you've told the story a lot about the shift in perceived value by consumers. It's no longer the dollar menu, right?
Yeah.
Instead, people want food that is like craveable by taste, right? So they want something that is worth their money. It is overall like high quality, or if I'm spending money on this, it's not going to be something that I can make at home or have easy access to, or it needs to be really fresh. Convenience is a big part of that as we kind of continually talk about the growth of snacking and honestly the growth of consumer packaged goods and all those different indie companies that Cam took out. And then that last one is experiential. So I think specifically with younger generations right now, and this is, I think, just fascinating that most younger people would rather receive an experience than a physical gift. And so I think that your point about value really, and like texture being a big part of that value, really like rolls up into that experiential, especially with something like ASMR. I'm going to go try this new chicken sandwich. It tastes delicious. You can't find it anywhere else. I got it through the drive-through, so it was from a QSR. So crazy that I can find something that is this value. And then I'm going to post a video about it and listen to that crunch.
No, exactly. Especially for our younger consumers who, even if they're trying to be budget conscious, like, are you gonna, it's about the memory, right?
Yeah.
Everything's about the memory and documenting it and going back to it. But are you gonna remember how much you paid for that chicken sandwich off the dollar menu? Or are you gonna remember how loud it was when you crunched it and took that first bite with your friends and everyone gasped? You know, like, that's what we're after these days. And so it is interesting. I mean, only in the last few years, like, we've really seen value evolve beyond price. Like, all these other things matter, and as many boxes that operators can check at one time, the better. So I think the audible crunching and also just texture in general. I mean, we mostly spoke about crunchy, crispy, but I know that also like creamy and foams and like the Starbucks protein foam that just launched recently. it all applies. And I think that that's definitely one of the main reasons why Dubai chocolate has lasted as long as it has. It's that crunchy katafi in the middle that's like so indulgent in the moment when it's drowning in pistachio butter.
Chocolate.
Like, what could be better?
The new pumpkin spice.
Yes.
Yeah, for real. Okay, so we're pivoting to a hot take here.
Okay.
Brought to you by me, but I think this is about our fiber trend. I think that the success of the fiber rich trend will depend primarily on marketing and the lack of product innovation. I think that similar to protein, I think this trend is helpful in the sense that it's attempting to educate consumers about like what's properly healthy and what healthy eating really means in a sustainable way. But it's dumbing it down in a similar way, just focusing on fiber and the fiber call out. My fear is that when I say lack of product innovation, as we spoke about it before, if there is intense product innovation of highly processed foods that just we're now boosting or enriching with more fiber, I think we're completely missing the point. And I fear that the consequences that will have on a consumer's stomach will completely miss the point in terms of what is good for you about fiber. Not to mention what Cam was saying before about like if you're not drinking enough water, how is that going to affect you and all of those things. But I would like to see more marketing supporting things that are already fiber rich, like I was saying, salads and other things that like are using those natural sources of fiber. And beans. But I get concerned when I think about the highly processed innovation of fiber in a similar way that we've seen with protein.
Yeah, I think from like a CPG standpoint, like my mind immediately goes to like just low-hanging fruit or all the cereal companies.
Yeah.
Like it is such like an easy thing for them to just add more whole grains to something. Like I think of Cheerios as an example. Like I remember way back when it's like, yes, you have the yellow box, but then you also have the purple box that also it's like made with whole grain. So there's obviously going to be a little bit more fiber in there. I think of Fiber One cereal immediately.
Yeah, like is Fiber One stock going through the roof yet?
We should buy it now, guys.
No, buy it now. They're brownies.
I've been using like these higher fiber like cereals as like a granola replacement for myself because you know there's less sugar in it, lower in calories, so I can have a lot more of it, and it's still giving me like the crunch and texture that I want, and I can control, like I just have to add a drizzle of honey or like some cinnamon or maple syrup, and it basically does the same thing. But Renee, what were you, or Cali, what were you gonna say?
Oh, go for it, Renee.
So I think the call out on marketing is fascinating to talk about. I think in recent years, we have seen a growth in the average consumer understanding what a commodity board is and just having more visibility. So the first one I think of is the avocados.
We'll explain what that is.
So great example, avocados from Mexico. They are a commodity board that promotes the use of ideally avocados from Mexico, but more importantly, fresh avocados using the point of differentiation. We see that from the California avocado board too. But 10 years ago, avocados from Mexico didn't have a Super Bowl commercial. And now they have these $1 million spots with these huge celebrities, and people understand the theme song. Like it's well known across the board, and that's you know, a whole food, a whole fat, a healthy fat, and we've seen avocados grow on menus over years and years and years, you know, coming out of like the avocado toast trends, and specifically driven by millennials in the early 2010s. I think that we're going to see more and more, and I hope to see more and more call outs from organizations like USA Rice, which is another commodity board that promotes the use of US grown rice on menus, everything from white rice, but also, to Cam, your point earlier in the episode, of brown rice. So having that logo appear and understand that that says that rice is approving this menu item. And so what I'm hearing you say, Cali, is that you want to see a lot more lean on commodity boards like USA Rice or even the like pea and lentil board.
Yeah.
To push forward claims and to kind of amplify the Whole Foods claim. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there is a certain amount of responsibility that should be taken on by those organizations, because I really do think that there is a missing piece of the puzzle when it comes to consumer education and us jumping from just like health claim to health claim without helping us understand why.
Yeah.
You know? Because some people who are deep into it, they're doing their own research, they know. But if it's just a matter of, oh, now I'm walking down the aisle and there's a fiber claim on this box of cereal, then like the gaps need to be filled. And I think also, Cam, to what you were saying about choosing like lower sugar options, I think one of the main concerns with the highly processed added fiber products is that oftentimes if we're adding fiber, the texture is getting so dense that we then see the addition of things like sugars and fats to make it a more palatable experience. So like, is it really healthier? Who's to say?
Exactly. Yeah. And part of me also wants to know too, it's like, yes, we're putting, we're talking about commodity boards, but I think too, there is also there should be a little bit of responsibility on the individual that wants to explore maybe a higher protein diet or adding supplements and whatnot. Because any supplement that you see or you're trying to buy, always there's the disclaimer. It's like, please consult your like physician, doctor before you start increasing anything. So yeah, just make sure you talk to your doctor. At the end of the day, yeah.
I think that's a really great call out, because it's interesting to see so many things that we talk about in the non-commercial segment come to life in national accounts and like the snack aisle. So we've been talking about fiber-rich foods, protein-dense options when it comes to non-commercial, specifically thinking about healthcare forever. That is one segment of our industry that has really always dug into food as medicine. I think Morrison Healthcare is one that comes to mind that has really amplified this, and not only has messaging externally in press briefs, but also they kind of bring that messaging alive when it comes to tray dining or through like dining halls, like the hospital dining hall. They're also having those kind of logos and call outs on everything. And so it's interesting to see something like hospital food, which is typically not seen as like really, really good food, right? Become almost, in some instances, by some healthcare organizations, the gold standard.
Yeah.
And that translate into what we're seeing on QSR menus.
Yeah. So I think it'll definitely, I think at large, it's a good thing. And that when we think about our non-com operators, like they already know what's up with fiber.
Yeah.
They've been on that bandwagon for a long time. So I think that generally it is a good thing to have, to have the backing of the fact that this is now trending is a good thing. I just wonder how it's going to show up in retail and in food service.
Yeah.
But
so how long until we see a fiber call out on the McDonald's menu?
I don't know.
Like, are they going to be like these?
High fiber bursties or boba. Why not?
Look, you use fiber to create a more viscous beverage. So is that, like this canned beverage that...
Unless it's in the form of them slapping the claim on their oatmeal, I'm not interested.
But what about the fiber in my French fries?
No.
They're a whole food.
I want my matcha latte to be high protein, fiber enriched, Dubai chocolate,
Girly pop.
strawberry, labubu, something or other.
In
I
the
want all of
drive-thru.
that. Yeah, of course. Yeah, in a McDonald's specifically, in a McDonald's, because they can do that.
Oh God.
I mean, who knows what food service looks like 5 years from now?
Yeah.
I think that we have translated and transformed in so many unique ways. And I think COVID has a lot to do with that. I think social media and the educated consumer has a lot to do with that. So seeing functional foods take a new form, and to your point, how they're marketed, Cali, is, I think it's just going to be fascinating to see. And like, I truly feel like buckled up because I've said that coming out of COVID, we have the most annoying consumer of all time multiple times.
Amen.
Because your food is not like, your food has to be convenient. It has to be delicious. It has to be fresh. And also like, it has to do something for you. It has to do something more than just, I feel full.
Yep.
And food has always done more than I feel full. It's always affected your mood. It's always affected,
But now we're talking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm so curious as how we're going to see this show up, because it does feel like an easy W for a lot of operators out there, because they're already using so many of these ingredients.
Yeah.
And how are they going to call them out?
Well, I think that's it for today.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, this was great. I missed you guys. I missed our listeners.
I miss you guys
Yes.
too.
Oh, so great to talk to you. And so that's it for today. If you're liking the show, please take a minute to subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, we absolutely love comments. So if you have thoughts on how fiber is going to show up on menu, or how it's already showing up on menus, or if you have a high fiber snack that you are already indulging in, please
tell us.
Yes.
drop it down below. We'd love to talk about it on our next episode. Okay. That's it for today. If you're liking the show, please take a minute to subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, we love comments. If you have thoughts on fiber on the menu, on global cuisine, on anything that we talked about, drop them down below. And if you're listening on the podcast app of your choice, leave us a rating and review. We are always hungry for feedback. Thanks so much, guys. Keep
Until
it delicious.
next time. No matter what. Keep it delicious.
Keep it delicious.